Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. And I know for a lot of us, including me, this has been one of the strangest Thanksgivings in my whole entire life. This is the first time, I've said it a number of times, that I am not at my mother's table eating my mother's macaroni and cheese and all of the other wonderful dressing and the turkey and the cranberry, all of that. We're doing something virtually. And I know for many of us, it also means this is the time of year where we remember the people we lost. I know that the holidays were already trying for me personally, because after losing my dad, who was center to our entire family, we had to make that adjustment too. So I know that this is tough. So we're here to provide people with the tools to help build their best lives. So I decided to welcome in our favorite resident psychologist. Let me welcome back to the show Dr. Nicole Washington. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you look beautiful, first of all.
Thank you.
All right. So before we get into mental health, some mental health practices during these
Mhm.
holiday seasons, and then during COVID, tell me what your practices are. What traditions have you been having during the holidays before COVID?
Typically, Thanksgiving it's my one. It's the one. I have family that come in from New York and Florida and Texas and Louisiana. And we normally host Thanksgiving at our house, and I pull out my big 10-gallon outdoor cast iron pot, and we make gumbo, and we do a big Thanksgiving. So this year is really strange for us for it to just be the four of us. It's very strange.
What's in the gumbo, Dr. Nicole? What's in the
Oh, it's
gumbo?
seafood. Seafood, of course. Crab, shrimp, sausage, chicken. Like it's seafood. Seafood gumbo.
All right. And how do you make your roux?
Oh, with flour and oil and flour or
Okay. All
butter.
right. I'm not testing you. I'm just getting little
Look, I'm
recipes.
a real root. I'm stirring. My arms getting tired. My daughter's arms getting tired. No, we
Take us
ruined
back.
in here.
Culturally, as folk, Black folk in particular, we commune around food, whether it's the cookout, the family reunion. So it is even more poignant that this holiday season, for many of us, we're not spending it with the whole extended family, with the people that don't have somebody to go over their house. We usually are opening our doors as well for folk to just come in. This is that time of year. This is the community holiday, even though it's, we can get into that, which we did already. The roots, the evil roots of Thanksgiving, the what
Yes.
we've turned it into. Black folk have turned Thanksgiving into our version of chitlins. We made something that start out a little dicey, a little horrible, into something really delicious and amazing.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that history wise, and the connection around food.
I think that's important. It also, there's just something about, eating does stimulate parts of the brain. I mean, we definitely get those dopamine highs when we eat a good meal. That's not all in your head, that after you eat a good meal, you just feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. That is real. Food is something that can be comforting. And definitely just especially around Thanksgiving, because I think for most of us, I'll say most because that's not true for everybody, but most people can kind of put aside whatever family differences, drama. Most of us can kind of put it aside for Thanksgiving. So you really get to focus on like the great family memories. You find yourself sitting around eating, talking about, oh, remember that one Thanksgiving? Remember when grandma used to do this? It's a feel good time.
Give me one Nicole Washington story, because we you come on, and it's usually prescriptive. We're
Yes.
talking about bipolar, we're talking about
Yes.
depression, suicide, but we don't really know you. Give me one Nicole Washington Thanksgiving moment.
So by I'll go back to when my husband and I were dating. In college, we were dating. It was actually like our first Thanksgiving, as like we officially said we were dating. And he spent the whole day with me at my mom's house. And shortly after that, we learned that he was going to be moving, like suddenly. It was a big old mess with his roommate and foolishness, young men in college. But it was just it's one of my most memorable Thanksgivings, just because I mean, it was me and him. It was our first one together, and now we've had 20 together. 20 to get 20 plus together. But we still always kind of reminisce to that first Thanksgiving when it was just the two of us and no kids, and we weren't even married yet. We were still, on that new relationship high and how great it was, and just happy to be close to each other. And we always talk about that Thanksgiving.
Tell me about your mother's spread in your mama's house.
So it's always the Thanksgiving. It's dressing, and she is known for her dressing. My mom is the cook of her siblings, so she is known for the mac and cheese and the dressing and the turkey and the ham and the gumbo, and somebody will do a peach cobbler. We go all out for Thanksgiving. You go all out. So that's the typical Thanksgiving kind of in our house spread. And I've continued it with my kids. I even gave my kids the option this year, like, hey guys, we're not going to have everybody over. You guys want to do traditional, or do you want to, do something different? And my son was like, nope, traditional. I want my stuff. I want what I want. So we're gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do it on a smaller scale because I don't really know that I know how to cook all that for just 4 people. So we'll see.
Uh, I'm asking a deeper question.
Okay,
See, and I know this is a flip, right? For the
that's all
psychologist to
right.
be
Come on,
a lot of
come on.
questions, but I think even you getting into becoming a psychologist, was that tied at all to your upbringing, to your household, to what you learned in your house growing up?
Growing up, I grew up in South Louisiana. I grew up in the hood, and psychiatry and mental health, and it just wasn't what we do. I mean, it's not what we do. And I can recall, having the people in the neighborhood who you would see talking to somebody who wasn't there. We had a couple in the neighborhood that we just knew, and everybody knew who they were, and everybody kind of rallied around them and took care of them. And I remember, just having things happen to people my age growing up, and just never ever mental health was never something. And as I got to medical school, like I really thought, oh, I was going to be a pediatrician or OB-GYN or something like that. But I fell in love with my psychiatry rotation. I loved when I would see Black patients. And a lot of them had never seen a Black psychiatrist before. And so we responded different. Our encounters were different. The way they talked to me were different. The way I could get them to open up was different. And it kind of, it just kind of dawned on me that so often we don't access the services because the people that are treating, they don't look like you. You can't relate to them. You can't. And I just enjoyed that connection. I felt like I was able to connect. And I loved being able to kind of help people get from their darkest place to a little bit brighter place. And so for
Mm.
me, I love that part. And so that was what really fueled it, was the fact that growing up we never talked about mental health stuff, and it was just kind of, you don't talk about it, you just take care of that person who's out in front of the corner store talking to themselves, and you don't dare get them help, and you don't dare get them treatment, you don't dare call anybody on them. But it was probably a culmination of all of the things I saw growing up and the lack of people pursuing mental health stuff that made me think, okay, this might be it instead of one of those other fields.
Do you find that people in your family now call you more frequently
Oh
with this?
no. Mm-mm.
No,
No.
you don't. You have a do not call me if you have a mental health issue edict in your
Well,
family.
first of all, I will admit I'm not the most nurturing person in the family. So
Wait a minute. Wait, Dr. Nicole, how are you not the most nurturing?
I'm
You do
not
this
the
for
most
a living.
I'm not the most nurturing, sensitive person. So I don't always get the calls, but I think I would get more calls if I did something like family medicine or internal medicine. Nobody wants to call me to even admit that they have something going on. So I won't get those calls. But in general, I am not the first person people call, because I'm not the most nurturing, loving person.
I I would call BS on that on the professional side because I
On
imagine.
the professional side, no, it's great. It's the personal side. You
Okay,
can
all
you
right.
you
You
call
know
my
what?
two little brothers and they'll have a whole different
But that is I think that's the way it is a lot. What you do professionally and what you do personally. Because you know that this is your job is to take care of people in this way, and who you are in your day to day life. And sometimes there has to be that barrier. or that shift for your own mental health, for your own personal health?
Right. So I do set pretty firm boundaries in my personal life because of the fact that I take on a lot of people's stuff during the day. So in the evenings and in my free time, like I'm super protective of who is in my social circle. I really can't handle a lot of drama and a lot of heartache and stress. And so it's pretty one of the things I always we talk about is protecting peace with my patients, protecting your peace. And so aside from when I'm working, like home is my peaceful place. There is very little commotion and drama and fuss in my personal life on purpose.
Okay, so as people are finishing up their meals or starting their meals or wherever they are in the process of Thanksgiving, if and this has been a year of incredible loss, just loss
Mhm.
of freedom, loss of perspective. It's almost like, how do you plan for a future when you're not sure what's going to happen next? And I think for a lot of us, it's also been a year where everything we thought we believed has been turned on its end, on its ass, literally. How do you deal with that, Dr. Nicole?
I do think we have to think back to try to find something decent that has happened for us this year. So for me personally, this time of year, I've been doing a ton of personal gratitude work because I have found myself really, really focusing a lot on every crummy thing that has happened in 2020. And it's hard not to go, oh, here we go. 2020 is 2020. And again, I mean, it's the first year I can think of that has, it's like a verb, there you go, 2020. And, it just seems like every time we turn around it's something. So for me, I've had to really, really be much more intentional about focusing on like, what have I gotten out of this? Like, what have I gotten? There are some things I've learned about myself. There are some things I've learned about my husband and my children that I didn't know this year. There are some people that I realized I didn't really need, people and things that I didn't really need in my life that I don't plan on inviting back in after 2020 is over. So just the gratitude of the things I've learned about myself this year and the clarity. So that's one thing. And for, people who've lost people, I mean, whether you lost them this year, whether you lost them previous years, this is that time where we grieve a little more and we think about those people. And I just kind of encourage people to embrace that, because typically when you are mourning the loss of someone, it means that you had the luxury of having them in your life. Like they brought something to you. You don't mourn people that you didn't care about. I mean, you mourn people that you had the opportunity to love as deeply as you did. And probably the harder you grieve for them, that's a sign of how great they were and the deeper your relationship was with them. So I do encourage people to lean into that a little bit and, take the time to, do something to honor them. If Thanksgiving was a time where they cooked a certain dish, try to cook that dish. It'll make you feel like you're with them. If there's something that they used to love to do at a particular holiday, do it, honor them, talk about them, celebrate them, celebrate the relationship you had with them. Because really, to me, when I think about the people in my family that I've lost and the people I grieve the hardest, it's almost like an honor because that means I got to know them in a way that allows me to miss them so much. And so I just try to lean into that part of it.
Thank you. As you're saying it, I'm like welling up because it's like it's so hard to have to, because we just want to bury and like stuff those feelings because the emotions that come up as you start to think about those people that you really love. What do you do with those emotions?
You
Those of you
feel
who
them.
are like me, who aren't trying to, I ain't trying to do that, Dr. Nicole.
You feel
What you
them.
doing?
You
What you
feel them.
doing?
You feel them. You feel all of them. You have them for a reason. You feel all of them. Now, they shouldn't take you down till Christmas. It shouldn't be till New Year's that you're feeling them and you're down. If that's the case, then you might need to address that professionally. But there's nothing wrong with feeling them. If you decide on Thanksgiving, you know what? I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to go out. I want to sit in my PJs and watch movies all day. That's fine. Own it, feel it, do it. Like nobody has to define what your grief looks like. Nobody has to define what you have to do. And sometimes, to be real, our families will try to push us and say, well, you don't need to do that. And you just need to do this. And you don't. And as my grandma would say, I don't have to do anything but stay black and die. So that
Come on, Grandma.
so
Come on. Yes.
she would say, so I would tell people that no, I don't have to do anything. Like I have to do, that's it. So just
Okay.
feel it.
Well, wait a minute, Dr. Nicole. And it's Thanksgiving. Again, thank you for, popping in and allowing us this respite, this moment to consider during this holiday what we can and cannot be doing. But if you're a parent like you are, or a
Mm-hmm.
spouse like you are, you kind of have to, you can't sit in your PJs and watch movies all day. So
I
there
could.
are things that you kind of have. Okay, talk about what that looks like and how can you
I mean, I
give
think your
yourself.
support system, I mean, you have to have I mean, the people in your house and you, I mean, you have to have an open relationship with the people in your house. And sometimes people put a lot of expectations on us that we can't necessarily live up to. And I do think it's important if you genuinely are struggling and you feel like it's going to be such a struggle on you emotionally and mentally to kind of do the whole meal and the Thanksgiving and to pretend like everything's okay. Talk to your family, talk to your, I have no doubts that if I was struggling and I talked to my husband and my kids and I said, hey guys, it's rough. I'm having a hard time. Can we do something different this year? I don't have a thought that any of them would say, no, we expect you to get in there and make that gumbo and do blah, blah, blah. I think they would, I think they would be understanding of that. But I think it's important that we say it because a lot of times what our problem is, we won't say it. Like we just want to pretend to be the strong one the whole time. And we want to be, oh, I got to do all this cooking, but really we like it, right? Like we like for everybody to have to lean on us and have to, for us to do the one, do all the food and us to do everything. And we fuss about being the only one doing everything, but we won't let anybody do anything else. So sometimes we kind of take that on and we just have to be willing to admit, like, one, I need to step back and I need to pull back. And two, just because I can do everything doesn't mean I should. So it is a difference between what I can do and what I should do and what I have to do. And so defining those terms and kind of getting comfortable with what that means to us definition wise, I think is important, but you don't have to do anything.
I look at what as you're talking, I'm thinking about the people who are so-called control freaks, and I'm actually not, even though I appear to be, you know, uh, which is interesting. But I think sometimes people need to control the minutia because they don't feel like they have control over the major things in their lives, their job, their house. So you nitpick control, and you're like super anal. You double down on this control of things that really don't matter that much because you don't feel like you have control over the major things in your life. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So it decreases anxiety. If you're somebody who's prone to being anxious, having control over every aspect of things just kind of it reassures you, even though there's no 100% reassurance, but it kind of reassures you that nothing unexpected is going to happen because you feel like you've controlled every variable and you've accounted for every variable. And so it kind of helps decrease your stress, decrease the anxiety. And some of us are control freaks. I am in recovery from from being controlling of things.
What does that look like, Dr. Nicole?
I'm in recovery. I have to, I literally have to stop sometimes and say out loud to myself, okay, but if you don't do this one thing, like, is it, what is the harm? Because I would convince myself that I needed to do it to get it done right. And if I didn't get it done right, the whole day was going to be a wash, right? Like all of Thanksgiving was going to be wrong if I didn't do, all these things. And I literally have to say, okay, well, if I don't cook this one thing and somebody else makes it, even if it doesn't turn out that great, like in the grand scheme of things, it probably doesn't matter. It just, just letting stuff go. And I really have to talk myself through, like, what's the
You
worst
gonna
that
let
could happen?
you
Because
gonna let
that's
your daughter cook
hard.
the gumbo? You gonna let your daughter cook the gumbo this
Oh, well,
year?
probably not. Probably
Okay.
not. Gumbo is 1,000% not something that anybody else really tries to cook. Maybe if my mom was here, but
Okay.
it's just not something that anybody else tries to. So,
All right. On the flip side, people who are in their pajamas that've been in their pajamas since March.
right, right,
And I think that too is like almost like an addiction, to be, like the sad space, like and some of it could be attention, some of it could be, actual mental health issues. How do
right.
you know the difference between somebody that is seeking attention and likes to be that person? Those friends that they always got something that's not, drama and problems. For the record, I have pruned my life of all of those people because I don't have the time to listen to it. I love you, but call me when everything's well. But
Right.
what do you do with those people? And it's not a mental health thing. How do you know what the difference is?
I mean, in a way, I think all of that's a mental health thing. Like if you're somebody who just has this innate need for people to know when everything's wrong with you and to get that attention, like there's something going on there. And some of us have personality disorder traits. Some of us have full on personality disorders that, create that kind of pervasive pattern of living in our relationships for us. And even when it's not a depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder or something like that, those people can still benefit from assistance, but it doesn't mean that it has to be you. I think setting boundaries with those people that for lack of a better term kind of suck the life out of you, it's appropriate. You can't be their therapist, you can't be their sounding board for everything. I mean, even those people could probably benefit from just working through, like, why do I behave the way I do? Because a lot of us, we may not have depression or anxiety, but we all have these little traits and things that get in the way sometimes of our relationship. They get in the way of ourselves. They get in the way of us moving forward in our careers. They get in the way of intimate relationships. They get in the way of friendships. It just, sometimes we have these little things. And I think if you're not able to correct them and recognize them and kind of, pivot when you see them happening, then probably it would benefit you to figure out, like, why do I keep having the same patterns happen across every relationship I have?
I love. I'm pausing because I need that to sink in. Okay. I follow you on Twitter at dr. Was it Nicole Psych?
Mm-hmm.
PSYCH Nicole Psych. Um, and you were talking about being in your PJs with your daughter, watching some mindless television show one of these weekends, and I thought, how glorious is that? Is that a good coping mechanism, just to just shut everything off and get you a nice warm bowl of popcorn and some cocoa and just watch TV, binge watch, something really mindless, jingle jangle or something. Yeah, I don't know. What are you watching right now?
Oh, right now I'm watching Stranger Things with her.
Are you?
So
How old is she?
14.
Okay, that's that age.
Yeah. So I'm not a TV watcher. I've watched more TV since March than I probably watched the last 10 years. Just because I've been home more. And so we've been, oh my gosh, we've watched Umbrella Academy, and now we're watching Stranger Things. We watched The Boys. We've watched all kind of stuff. And the biggest, and I'm not, like I said, not a big TV watcher, but the biggest thing is we were already close, but we've gotten a lot closer throughout this time. She's my theater person. She's a performer. She's usually happiest when she's on stage and performing, and that's been taken away from her.
Mm,
So, my husband and I have worked really hard. My son went away to college, which was also hard for her because now she's lost her brother. Now it's just her. So we do a lot of unplugging and just kind of talking about random life things, just the two of us, because I need to make sure she's good because it's rough. It's hard on her. Everything that brings her joy just about has been taken away this year.
mm. And so it put you in a situation to do something that you wouldn't normally do, to make sure that you were there for her, and in the
Absolutely.
process y'all have become closer. And I love that as instruction.
Absolutely.
Give us some more tools and some tips, because beyond the holiday we're still unfortunately in a pandemic. Maybe there's a vaccine, maybe there's not. Maybe the most of us will take it, maybe we won't. And your thoughts on that as a also medical doctor who practices psychiatry.
Yeah, I was talking last night to a community group virtual with church, and there's another doctor in the group, and somebody asked, we're going to take it, and we were talking through, and I think the companies, the people in charge in this country, they're going to have to do some work with Black folks, convincing us that we should do this. I mean, ultimately, I do think, once vaccine becomes available officially and I can see data and research, and I lean towards that I will, do it. But there are still times when I go, I don't know about that. My 18-year-old, who's a freshman in college, asks me frequently. He's like, "So what do we think about this vaccine stuff? Like, what's going on here?" So he's interested in asking questions. So I think healthy suspicion is perfectly appropriate for us. So anybody who says, "Well, I don't understand why people are hesitant," just go pick up a history book. Like we can come up with name after name of why we're hesitant. Don't tell me it was
Yes.
a long time ago, because it wasn't. Don't tell me all of that stuff. We know that the biases in medicine still exist. But there are studies from a psychiatry standpoint that a Black man who shows up into a hospital angry will be diagnosed with schizophrenia more often than he's diagnosed with a mood disorder than his white counterparts. So these things are still happening. Like we still. So I just tell people healthy suspicion is great. Talk to your healthcare team. Hopefully somebody on your healthcare team can talk to you in the language you need them to talk to you. And I think we just keep watching. I think healthy suspicion is fine, because I am healthily suspicious right now.
And if you don't have a healthcare team, get one. And if you
Get
don't
one.
have a mental health person,
Get
get
one.
one. And if they're not listening to you, get
Get
new
another one.
ones.
No, I mean, some of us will go, we will go further to try to find a hairdresser than we will, the right doctor. So we'll ask, you'll see somebody in a grocery store, you will 3 aisles over, hey, who does your hair? I like your color, blah, blah, blah. We know what color we use. We know all these things. When it comes to doctors, we just randomly pick somebody out the insurance manual or online. We don't think, to ask people you trust and know, hey, who's your doctor? Do you feel like they listen to you? What do you feel like? And if you see a doctor and it's not working, go find another one.
Absolutely. All right, final. Give us two things this holiday season that will help from a mental health standpoint us getting through those of us who are struggling right now.
Right. So one, I think sleep. You got to sleep. Okay, we got to sleep. If you don't get good sleep, nothing else in your life is going to go well. Your sleeping and your bowel movements are the two things in your body that can really wreck your life. Okay.
Girl, let me write that down. The
Sleeping and
second one,
bowel movements. Nothing in
think
your life will
obvious.
go right if you are constipated or you're not sleeping. Nothing.
Better say that. So y'all,
Nothing.
listen. Thank you for that. Sleep and make sure that. So that means as we eat to our fullness this holiday season, be mindful of your bowels to
Yes.
make sure there's some
Please.
roughage and some fiber and some
Right.
greenery.
Add a fiber supplement, do something. So sleep is the one. And then the other thing I'll say is finances. I think this year it's going to be very, very tempting to try to compensate for this year and to overcompensate for the fact that we can't get together or we're not getting together but there's still zero reason to go broke at Christmas. There's zero reason, because it stresses you out and you spend the whole first quarter of the year trying to financially recover from what you did in November and December. So this year, especially, we're all sitting at home. Everybody's Black Friday started 2 weeks ago. Everybody's online this, Cyber Monday that. Just be mindful that you don't have to overcompensate just because you're locked in. It's fine. It's fine.
And lean into love because that costs nothing for a little bit
Not
of
a
time and
thing. I will share this with you. One of the things that my daughter got me for my birthday that cost her zero. She made this jar for me 365 days. Some of them are quotes, some of them are jokes, some of them are remember when instances, some of them are things that she wants to do together, and some of them say, I love you because. There are 365 pieces of paper in this jar. And I'm supposed to pull one every day from my birthday this year to my birthday next year.
wow.
And each day I pull something out, and some of it is stuff that I forgot about. Some of it are things that I think, oh, that's so sweet. The one I pulled out today said, I love you because you make me want to be a better person. That cost her nothing. And to get that kind of stuff from your teenager, or to give that kind of stuff for your kids to get that kind of stuff from you, like that costs you nothing, nothing,
Mm,
nothing. So I'm a
good
big
mention.
fan of not going broke, and gift giving can be very meaningful without being expensive.
Ah, that just gave me some ideas. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole Washington, and your daughter for being an amazing little human being, and your husband and your son as well. I wish you and your family all of the joy and blessings that the earth can muster, that the universe can muster for you. You are amazing. I thank you for being a part of our family.
Oh, thank you. And you have a great holiday as well.
You too. And we're going to tweet out all the information. So if you need some mental health, if you need a psychiatrist, how
Yes.
many states are you in right now?
Ooh, 9 with 3 pending.
Okay. All right. Soon it will be everywhere.
Yeah.
Dr. Nicole, have a happy Thanksgiving.